This was the exact moment the Nigerian police arrested one of the most wicked, devilish and satanic native doctor in Nigerian history, Fatai Adebayo, the chief herbalist, the king native doctor and leader of the serial killing cult group known as the Bado Killers, a notorious diabolic cult group that terrorized the community of Ikorodu of Lagos State between 2016 and 2019. This cult group would go down in history as one of the most wicked diabolic cult group ever on earth. Imagine a cult group made up of purely blooded, hungry serial killers, and they all targeted a specific community in Lagos State, mainly Ikorodu and its environs for the most part. Why are these groups so wicked? Well, unlike other serial killers that would use a knife, a gun, these people had a specific way of killing. They were only limited to two choices of weapons, a grinding stone and a mortar pestle. Their method of killing was very specific. They strike in the middle of the night and target low-income houses. Those neighborhood houses that they believed the doors are weak and the windows did not have bars. There were also rumors that these people would plan their target ahead of time. This native doctor, Fatai, would give them certain substances to spray by the door or by the window of their target. It is said to be a white powdery substance that they would just pour by the door or by the window or just around the house that they plan to target. It is believed that that white substance would cause the occupants of that house to fall into deep sleep. Now, whether that is true or not, the bottom line is, for the most part, it worked. These killers would break into the homes when their targets are asleep and instantly strike them with these weapons while they sleep. If there is a man in the house, they go for the men first. Because from what we hear, as a cult group with their killing based solely for ritual purposes, women and children were usually their preferred targets. When they kill their victims, they are usually with a white handkerchief, and the purpose of that white handkerchief was to swipe up the blood of the people they've killed, and then they take that blood back to the native doctor, Fatai Adebayo, who they say somehow turns this handkerchief of blood into some form of money rituals. Whether or not this worked is unclear, but so many people believed in it so much that this cult group began growing in the numbers, recruiting a large number of young boys over the years. The killing did not happen just once, it happened many times, and some sources have recorded that the Bado serial killing cult group may have killed nearly over 50 people that they could account for. The numbers would have been more, but here is how this started for the people of Ikorodu. In June of 2016, a terrible discovery was made in a home where they say a 27-year-old woman by the name of Grace Obinna Jibril was found dead alongside her baby. It is believed that a killer had broken into her home, killed her with a stone or a mortar pestle. However, her baby was just by her side and seemingly the baby was untouched. She was also believed to have been sexually assaulted, and this was what made people believe that, okay, clearly this is a thing of rape and nothing more. Though they noticed something on the door of her house. "I am Bado" was written with the blood stain, and this was the moment people knew that, okay, somebody has killed this person and the person is taking responsibility, because it's unusual for somebody to kill somebody and then write on the door of the person claiming responsibility for that killing. It did not take long though, because according to what we hear, the people in the community heard about the killing and they were so pissed and they were so angry, and they had to do some kind of juju to find the killer, in which they did. They found the killer and instantly tagged him the name Bado. They thought this young man they had caught was the Bado, and they were so happy and grateful that the killer of Grace Jibril has been caught and arrested. Little did they know that they were in for a rude shock. After the young man who was accused of killing Grace in front of the baby was arrested, the people of Ikorodu woke up to another case of a family brutally murdered in their home, and the killing just continued. And what made it so confusing and so surprising was the fact that with these new killings, the writing on the wall still wrote, "I am Bado," which let them know that, hey, is there a chance they arrested the wrong person? Is the Bado still out there? Or is there a chance that this Bado is not one person.
Before, we thought that there's only one person. So later, we keep on hearing Baghdad strike here, Baghdad strike there, Baghdad strike, even up to Ogun State. From there, we agreed that they were in Bruce.
What started like a victory lap for the people of Ikorodu after finding the killer of Grace. By the way, some sources said they also killed the baby, but some other sources said that she was killed in front of the baby, and so it's unclear. But yeah, when the people of Ikorodu did arrest that suspect, they were really hoping that this was it. However, subsequently, as time went on with that suspect in prison, the killing did not stop. Over time, the people of Ikorodu would keep waking up to the screams of people's body being discovered in their home, smashed and brutally battered to death. It would just be early in the morning when somebody would scream out loud saying that their next door neighbor has been brutally killed. Men, women, and children were being found in their homes with their heads smashed beyond imagination. And the writings on the wall, I am Bado, continued to linger on with each and every one of these killings, as though it was important and necessary that it is written. And soon the word starts to spread that there is a possibility that a serial killer is on the loose. At this point, it's unclear if they are now sure if it's more than one person, but for the most part, people kept believing it's one person. And then there was one particular incident where a woman and her child were killed at a church. They were having a night vigil when the attackers struck and had this woman killed in the house of God, in a church. It's as though the people in the church on that night vigil had slept. It's unclear how that was possible, but while they were in the vigil, maybe sleeping or not, the attack happened, and by morning they knew that these people had struck again. The only problem is a man was instantly believed to have been the one who had done it, and he was attacked by a group of angry mob, paraded, and claimed to be the one who was behind the killing. And that was how it continued for the people of Ikorodu and the nearby communities that were affected by this consistent killing. The young man was paraded, handed over to the police, but still, with him in prison, the killing continued. That is when it started occurring to a lot of people in Ikorodu that, wait, though, this is just not one person. It became clear that this could be a case of ritual killing, because for some of the victims, the white handkerchief that these people usually use to swipe the blood and take back to their native doctor would be left on the scene. Maybe they came with multiple white handkerchiefs, but for some reason, in some crime scenes, this handkerchief are seen that indicates that, yeah, these people are really doing this for diabolic purposes. The police began doing the Lord's work. Between 2016, 2017, and there about 2018, what the people and the police would do was treat each killing as independent of each other. And I think that was when they started realizing that this is more than just one person. You know, the first killing, the person has been arrested, apparently. The other killing, they will find the suspect. The next killing, they will find the suspect. They just be finding suspects with each killing, but then with each of these suspects being in police custody, the killing still continued. And eventually, I guess it gave them the biggest picture that they could ever imagine, that they were not dealing with one person, but a group of horrible, evil demons. Vigilante group were set up to protect communities. The security mindset of a lot of people in Lagos State extensively was heightened, because obviously from Ikorodu, this also went to other communities. It even happened in Oyo State. It even happened in some part of the island. This method of killing was not just limited. It's not as if the native doctor was telling them you can only kill people in Ikorodu. They could actually go to other communities to do this killing. What was needed was the fact that the native doctor need to bless the weapon. That was the job of the herbalist. He would bless the weapon, or maybe give them the weapon themselves. Give them the stone and the mortar pestle that we use. And they are supposed to bring it back, hopefully, or give them a white handkerchief to swipe the blood of their victims and bring back. It just didn't matter where they were getting the specimen from, and that was why the entire Lagos State had to be at alert. Eventually, somewhere in 2018, a particular attack was to be carried out in a specific house in Ikorodu. The Bado killers had targeted the home. They had put the powder in the windows and by the door to make the family inside fall deep asleep. Here is another thing again I need to say about this Bado killing that I suspect. Although it never came out, but a lot of these killings would have been done by neighbors, people who already know the family of the victims. Nobody is going to come from another community to stage this kind of killing in a community or in a neighborhood that they were not very familiar with. With this kind of killing, best believe that most of the killers and most of these cult boys were targeting homes and family members of people that they were familiar with. Because you can't enter the home of a stranger when you don't know the way around the home. You don't know if they have dog. You don't know what kind of door they use. You don't know how this family behave. It's just, and to think that these people need to plan ahead before they go into that home, because they also need to put the juju and the powder, lets you know that most of the victims were targeted by people that they may have known. And on this day in 2018, one particular Bado killer would sleep and make a very big mistake that would fall down the entire pillars of this cult group, bringing it to its very end. So on this day, on this very day, it was said that a family in Ikorodu were sleeping, or let's just say they were preparing to go to bed. It was already night. But put in mind, the security alert system in Ikorodu was high. Everybody was aware of what's going on. So people had increased the protectors in their door. People made sure to lock door, front and back door. People were making sure that their windows were locked. People were making sure that, they had keys out of the door or by the back of the door, so no one can use a spare key from outside. But again, there will always be that family that would be a perfect target. And on this day in 2018, it was said that a particular family, whose name we don't know, she was just getting ready to sleep, and she somehow woke up and heard a noise. When she opened her eyes, she saw a naked man in the shadows standing, about to do something. Put in mind that most of these Bado serial killers, when they get into the house of their targets, they go for the men first. They go for the man, because we are made to understand that their major targets for the ritual purposes is women and children. So they go for the man of the house first, so that he doesn't fight and attack them. And I think in this moment, it's unclear what the story was, but a particular woman, despite all odds, in the deepest of all sleep, woke up and instantly spotted this stranger in her house. And she screamed, yelled with the top of her voice, and this attracted the vigilantes in the community, because people know what's up. And immediately the intruder in the house ran out and began running. And that was how the vigilante put up a chase, called the police, and the police swung immediately. They responded almost immediately, because they've been trying to fight these serial killers for nearly 2 years. Over 2 years, give or take. They surrounded the community and the area and began looking for their targets. And it did not take long before a suspect was arrested and believed to be the man who had made his way into this woman's house. But here is the thing. And this is another struggle that the police had, another thing that the community also suffered in the hands of Bado. Probably why they were struggling with finding the killers. With the Bado killing becoming popular and people realizing that it's a cult group, many other criminals, many other people who were not even in this cult group began taking advantage of that notion to commit heinous crimes under the name of Bado. So most of the killings that we believe is Bado killings were just done by wicked people who were not even there to do money rituals. They were just, what they would do is attack a house. Now they know the method of the Bado killing. I think those are the ones who kept leaving the handkerchief behind, because the real people in the Bado ritual killing would swipe the handkerchief on the victim's blood and go with it. So most of the people, or most of the crime scenes where the white handkerchief is still left in the crime scene itself, were clearly indicative that the people who did this killing were not Bado killers. These were just armed robbers who would come and steal from the house of their victims, but then stage it to look like it's Bado killing, because maybe they believe the Bado is one person. For the most part, you got to know that people believed it was one person, that they were just catching the wrong person. So most of the criminals and most of the thieves committing the crimes here would just stage it to look like it's Bado. What a way to get the attention of yourself. I guess that was a struggle with the police finding these serial killers, because when they catch one person, even most of the suspects that were caught, there's a chance that those people did it. There is a chance, but then it leads nowhere. When they are being arrested and interrogated by the police, it doesn't take the police anywhere leading to a source. It just meets a roadblock, because these people don't know the herbalists. They don't know the king of the Bado group. They have no idea what Bado even is, but they may have in fact done the killing of their victims. The Bado serial killers were not known to steal per se, so most times when the victims will have their phones stolen, their television taken, their properties ransacked, it seemed like, okay, these ones may just be people copycatting or pretending to be staging the crime scene to look like the Bado killing, whereas they are busy stealing mobile phones and all of those things. And then for some of them, they were traced. The mobile phones that they will still will have them caught and arrested, and again, it would lead nowhere. However, the police were still gathering information and gathering details and gathering things that would help them eventually narrow it down. And I think the man who was arrested in Ikorodu in 2018, the one that the woman screamed that caused the vigilante group and the police to catch the suspect, would be the one who would finally put the pieces together. And I think this one had the direct link to Fatai Adebayo. He was arrested and then he made a confession where he said that he had met somebody who was driving a nice car and had asked the person to give him a chance to, use the car and drive the car, or maybe wanted a car for himself. It's unclear what his request was, but basically he saw his friend living a good life and wanted that life. And the friend was like, for you to get this life, you would have to do this. And that was how he got initiated into the cult group, where he went to meet the Fatai Adebayo, got initiated, given his weapons, and told to go and commit the crime and bring the handkerchief through the blood. But unfortunately for him, it did not work out, because he was the one that got caught. And when he got caught, he did not waste time to throw everybody's name under the bus. The police instantly began looking for Fatai Adebayo, and eventually they caught him trying to escape in a boat. I think I don't know which of the water part. It could be the Ikorodu one leading up to the island, and he was then taken back to his shrine, where he revealed everything and how he operates. The shrine just looked a very, very unique type of way. But one thing about the shrine that struck me was it was positioned in the middle of a community itself, which was a bit odd. The shrine was not a shrine that was hidden. Most shrines were deep into the forest, but this particular shrine for Fatai Adebayo was a bit in the middle of a neighborhood with wooden, it looks like a store, a kiosk or something, but the inside just was so diabolic and revealed the proof and evidence that yes, this was the man who this Bado cult group killers would go to for fortification. Like any original Bado killer cannot perform the ritual without going through this man. So basically, a lot of the killing were on this man's directive. Now, he may have not done the killing himself, but he is the one providing the weapons and collecting the handkerchief that these people used to use to swipe up blood from their victims. Arresting Fatai Adebayo would maybe most likely mark the end of the Bado serial killing cult group, because eventually the killing reduced. I would say it stopped, because the other killings that would happen afterwards were clearly still those fake ass Bado people taking advantage of the situation. But eventually it stopped, and the police even started getting names of people, and eventually more people. There was a point that nearly 300 young boys were arrested and accused of being a part of this cult. Obviously, the police mentioned that they would release some if they are found not guilty, but they had over 300 people as suspects. 300 at some point. If these people had not been stopped, the killing would have gone extensively beyond Lagos. But here is the biggest question with the Bado cult group that never made sense. We know that the nature of their killing was not to target rich people. So they are targeting poor people, or let's just say low-income families. And for the genuine purpose of this killing is money rituals. So the killers were not stealing from their victims. And even if they would steal, what would they steal? A technophone? So why exactly were this cult group so invested in this killing? What were they getting? Was the money ritual working? Because it continued for 2017, 2018, 2019, which means that there was something about this killing that was encouraging to the people participating in it. It never just made sense that people would just for so long. If it was working, maybe that was why it continued. Because if it wasn't working, people would have stopped. So why did these people continue killing over time? Well, it's hard to place the puzzle together because another notable man was arrested in connection to being a ringleader in the Bado killing cult group. A man by the name of Alhaji Alaka Abayomi Kamal. This man was at some point declared wanted in 2017 by the police, which means that his name has come up at some point during their investigation on this Bado killing spree. So before Fatai was arrested, or maybe it was after, it's unclear who got arrested first, but this man, Mr. Alaka, is also a prominent name that comes up in the Bado serial killing saga. And the thing with him is, unlike all the other people, Alaka is a wealthy man. He is the richest in this. This Fatai is not close. This Fatai is a regular man living in a kiosk, a shrine. Alaka himself is a known businessman that had a fuel station, multiple properties, event center, hotels, and properties that were worth millions. This was a millionaire. So how come he is now being implicated in this Bado serial killing cult group? Why is he in it? And what is his role? It's hard to tell, but the press describes him to be the kingpin. Fatai Adebayo was said to be the chief herbalist, while Mr. Alaka is said to be the kingpin. Here is the thing. It's hard to draw a specific line of connection between Fatai and Alaka, but for what we know, in 2017, August of 2017, the news broke out that was arrested under suspicion of fraud and also alleged killing of a family member of 5. And in a video, we saw him per se take the police into a bushy path that would lead to a building believed to be a shrine. And this shrine, they said, had multiple doors. This is a very scary, horrifying place to be. Each of the doors seem to have a specific big deity molded for its purpose that only God knows what it was for, because I don't know. Now, what I cannot say for a fact is if Alaka and Fatai working together, or if they know each other, or if they have their own different aspect to this cult serial killing group, or as some people would say, maybe Fatai was taking those handkerchief from the boys that were going to do the killing in Ikorodu, and then he will give them money for it, and in turn sell those bloody handkerchief or the weapons or whatever was collected for the ritual purposes and give it to Alaka. Because again, Alaka, as a rich, wealthy businessman per se with the petroleum, he had a shrine. He was into diabolic stuff too. Could he have been the one purchasing the handkerchief? And could he have been the chain of money that kept motivating these young boys to go into this killing spree? Was he the financial head of the Bado serial killers? It's unclear. We don't know. But somehow his name got mentioned. And his background shows that he has wealth. And there is still a question as to what Fatai Adebayo was using those handkerchief for, and why these young boys kept coming back to him for fortification, to get the murder weapons, in turn to keep doing this killing. What was the motivation behind it? It was money, it was wealth, it was greed. But where was the money coming from? Because we know it's not coming from the sky. We should know that they did not put those handkerchief in one calabash and the killers went home and money fell from the sky. I don't believe so. I do not believe so. I don't think that is how it works. So technically, given the implication of Alaka, many people believe that he would most likely have been the one financing the killing and collecting the specimen. But yeah, this is the story of the Bado serial killing cult group that terrorized a whole town in Lagos State. So make sure you like, subscribe, follow. In another video, we are going to talk about another serial killer that I think everyone should know. So thank you guys for following, and don't forget our movie Day of the Games Night is still showing on Red Moon TV. Search for it, watch it, and drop a comment.